The wind scraped dry dust across the porch as Evelyn Moore hammered the last nail into the fence gate. The boards were splitting again, sun-baked and frail, like everything else on the ranch since her husband died. She stepped back, hands on her hips, and surveyed the broken landscape. The Cimarron horizon stretched vast and empty, interrupted only by brittle mesquite and rust-colored rocks. A place that swallowed men and stories whole. The livestock were thinning, and her right shoulder still burned from that fall off the ladder last week. She couldn't hold the ranch much longer on her own. She needed help, and not the kind that came with gossip or favors from town. So she rode into Elkhorn with her boots worn thin and her pride tucked under her hat, and tacked up a notice outside the general store. Farmhand wanted. Pay weekly. Food and board. No drunks. She returned to her porch the same way she'd left it, alone. For days passed. Then he came. Evelyn spotted him walking up the dirt path, just after dawn, coat slung over one shoulder, a bundle strapped to his back. He didn't come in on a horse, which was unusual this far west, and his boots looked road-worn. Dust clung to his hat, and though his face was shadowed, his stride was steady. He stopped 10 paces from the porch and tipped his brim. "You the widow Moore?" he asked. His voice was quiet but not unsure. "I am," she said. Her hand rested casually on the rifle leaning against the wall. "I'm here about the notice." She studied him. Rough beard, lean face, eyes like bank coals, watchful but unreadable. He didn't fidget or look past her into the house. That counted for something. "What's your name?" "Wes Calder." "You ever worked land like this?" "Yes, ma'am. In Texas. And New Mexico a while back." "Why'd you leave?" "Too much killing," he said. He didn't flinch when he said it, and she didn't ask more. Out here, the past came with its own silence. She gave him a trial. The first day, he fixed a water pump without being asked. The second, he put down a 6-steer clean and respectful. By the third, she let him sit at her table. He didn't talk much, just watched the horizon like it owed him something. Sometimes he whittled by the barn after supper, long thin strips curling from a knife that gleamed like it had history. Evelyn found herself wondering who'd given it to him, but never asked. They were both careful with questions. Weeks passed, and the ranch settled into a rhythm again. Fences stood straighter. Animals grew calmer. Evelyn slept with both eyes closed for the first time in months. Then the chicken coop door was found open. Not broken, not clawed, opened. Clean. Precise. 2 hens gone, no blood trail. Wes knelt near the prints in the dirt. "Someone's watching," he said softly. Evelyn felt the tight knot return to her chest. She kept the rifle closer now, even inside. Later that week, she found a kerchief wedged beneath the hay in the feed room, blood-stained, embroidered with a curled letter J. She knew what it meant. Everyone in Elkhorn had heard the name whispered at night. Jude Black. The outlaw had been drifting across the frontier with his gang for over a year, robbing coaches, burning ranches, vanishing into the desert like smoke. He didn't just steal. He claimed things. Land. Horses. Women. Evelyn took the kerchief to Wes. He stared at it for a long time. Said nothing. "You recognize it?" she said. "Yes." "How?" "I used to ride with him." Her stomach dropped. He looked up. "Didn't know this land was his target. I left his gang a year ago." "Why?" "Because I didn't want to be him." Evelyn didn't answer. She walked back to the house, bolted the doors, and left a lantern burning through the night. She'd hired a wolf to guard the pen. The next morning, Wes was gone. His bed was neatly made. His knife was gone, too. Evelyn fed the horses herself and checked the fences twice. All day, her thoughts chased themselves like coyotes around a campfire. She hated herself for trusting him. Hated herself more for missing his quiet presence. When evening came, so did the storm. Thunder cracked over the mesa, and with it came the riders, 3 of them. Jude Black at the center, tall, grinning, and cruel-eyed. His teeth caught the lightning when he smiled. He didn't dismount, just leaned in the saddle and tipped his hat. "You must be Evelyn," he said. "You're every bit as pretty as I was told." She said nothing, hand behind her back on the cold iron of the doorknob. Jude looked around casually, then spat into the dust. I'm gonna make you an offer. You'll marry me. Settle this ranch under my name. Be my fine lady. I'll even let you keep your shotgun. Looks good on you. And if I refuse? He shrugged. I'm not real big on refusals. The other two laughed behind him, one of them fingering the reins with the twitchy impatience of a man who liked breaking things. I had help here, Evelyn said. He'll come back. Oh, I know about Wes. Jude leaned closer. He was mine before he was yours. Poor boy forgot where he belongs. Evelyn's blood ran cold. Jude tipped his hat again. Wedding's in 2 days. I'll bring the preacher. They turned their horses and rode off, vanishing into the storm as quickly as they'd come, leaving only hoofprints and a rising wind. Evelyn stepped back inside and locked every bolt. She stood alone in the parlor, the ring of Jude's words still echoing like distant gunfire. She didn't cry. She didn't curse. She went to the cabinet and pulled out her husband's revolver, dusted it clean, and began to load it 1 bullet at a time. The day after Jude Black's warning broke, with a sky bruised purple, heavy with the kind of silence that settled over land before it split open. Evelyn awoke before the sun, her hands already reaching for the revolver on the nightstand. She didn't know if she'd slept at all. Her body moved by habit, dress, boots, hair tied back, shotgun slung over her shoulder. Outside, the ranch breathed uneasily. The horses were restless. The wind spun dust devils near the corral, and even the hens stayed quiet in their coop, as if they too understood something terrible was drawing near. She made coffee thick and bitter and drank it with shaking hands. Wes hadn't come back. That, more than anything, left her rattled. Part of her had hoped he'd ride up that path again, jaw set, eyes burning, some plan tucked behind his silence. But no rider came. Just the wind. At noon they arrived. Jude Black rode at the front, casual and clean-shaven like he was on his way to a picnic. He wore a gray duster and a sidearm studded with silver, too ornate for function. On either side, 2 of his gang flanked him, one with a scar down his cheek like a split leather strap, the other chewing a toothpick and grinning like a devil on payday. Evelyn stood on the porch, both hands wrapped around the shotgun. Her thumb rested near the trigger. "You're early," she said. Jude dismounted leisurely. "Always thought it polite to come early for a wedding." "This ain't no wedding," she replied. "It will be," he said, stepping closer, boots crunching over the dry path. "You think I'd just ride off after seeing a woman like you running a ranch like this? You're strong. And stubborn. I like both. But I don't like repeating myself." Evelyn didn't lower the gun. "You're not getting this land." He laughed, a short, sharp bark, and turned to his men. "She's got bite. I like that." Then he stepped forward so fast she barely flinched in time. He grabbed the barrel, yanked the gun sideways, and twisted it free of her hands. The movement was practiced, brutal, and it left her stunned. "Lesson 1, sweetheart," Jude said, pressing the shotgun against her chest and shoving her back toward the door. "Don't point a gun unless you're ready to die for the trigger." She stumbled but didn't fall. He didn't follow her inside. He just dropped the shotgun at her feet, eyes still locked on hers. "You've got 2 days," he said. "Make peace with it. Wear something nice." Then he turned and mounted again, riding off without another word. That night, Evelyn sat alone in the parlor, hands curled around a lamp she hadn't lit. The house was too still. Shadows clung to the walls like regrets. She thought of Wes again, his steady hands, his quiet gaze. She wanted to hate him, to believe he'd abandoned her. But something in her gut twisted the other way. He had known Jude, and he'd left before the storm came. Why? At dawn, she packed a satchel with jerky, a skin of water, and a single pistol. She saddled the bay mare and rode for Elkhorn. The town was no bigger than a handful of teeth left in a jawbone. Sheriff's office, general store, blacksmith, saloon. All quiet. She dismounted and walked straight into the sheriff's office. Sheriff Greeley sat with his boots on the desk, hat tipped over his eyes. He didn't look up when she entered. "I need help," Evelyn said. He didn't move. "You're the widow Moore." "Yes. And Jude Black's after you. He means to take my land. And marry me, if you can believe that." Now he looked up. His eyes were bloodshot and tired. I believe it, but I also believe he's got 6 men with rifles and no fear of God. You're the law. He shook his head. Law don't work the same out here, ma'am. Not when the law can be shot from behind a horse at 40 paces. You're scared. I'm smart. She turned without another word and left the office, the door banging shut behind her. No help. No allies. She rode back before sundown. The sky streaked red like a warning. That night, they came again. This time, Jude brought more men, 4 in total. They circled the ranch, lit torches, laughed, drank, made sure she saw them. A show of power. A cage without bars. Evelyn watched from the window, rifle across her knees, heart hammering so loud it echoed in her teeth. When she closed her eyes, she imagined what it would be like to let go, to vanish into the desert, abandon the land and the memories buried beneath it. But she knew better. Her husband had died to keep this soil. She would not dishonor him by running. Then, just before midnight, something changed. One of Jude's men, the toothpick chewer, let out a howl and fired his revolver into the air. The others scrambled to their feet. Horses screamed. Evelyn grabbed the rifle and rushed to the porch, just in time to see the gang's camp thrown into chaos. Torches were overturned. Saddles slashed. A trail of footprints led into the dark beyond the paddock. And there, standing beneath the moon, was Wes Calder. He looked worse than before. Dried blood caked his sleeve. A deep cut split his brow. But he held himself like a man with purpose, his knife glinting at his side. No horse. Just dust and fury. She didn't call out. Neither did he. Their eyes met across the darkness, and something unspoken passed between them. He was back. The gang scrambled to pursue, but Wes was gone before they mounted. Into the brush, into the rocks, vanished like a ghost. Evelyn shut the door slowly, heart pounding. She leaned against it and let herself smile. Just once, sharp and brief. He hadn't abandoned her. He was fighting. 2 days left. And now, perhaps, a fighting chance. The desert awoke before dawn with a silence thick enough to feel. Evelyn stood in the barn brushing down her mare, more to steady her hands than to prepare the animal. The air was cool, crisp with anticipation. Outside, the scorched soil held the memory of footprints and hooves. Wes's, Jude's, men who shaped the future with every step they took through dust. Her fingers paused on the mare's flank. She was thinking about Wes again. He hadn't shown himself since the chaos he'd stirred 2 nights ago, but his message had been plain. He was near, he wasn't finished, and he hadn't forgotten. Evelyn tightened the saddle cinch and whispered, "Wherever you are, be ready." She checked the revolver in her coat pocket and stepped outside. Just beyond the ranch, a figure stood against the lightening sky. For one heartbeat, her hand went to her weapon, but she stopped. Wes. His coat hung torn at the shoulder, and his shirt was stained with more than just sweat. Yet he stood tall. Worn, yes, but like weathered stone, shaped by storms but never broken. "You left," she said. "I did," he replied. "Had to." "Why?" "I needed to know what Jude was planning, what he was hiding." And Wes pulled a folded paper from inside his coat and handed it to her. Evelyn opened it. A deed, survey maps, land transfers, stamped with the county seal. But the name in the corner made her breath catch. Clinton Moore. Her husband. She stared at it. "I don't understand." Wes spoke quietly. Jude Black wasn't just some drifting outlaw. He worked for a land broker out of Santa Fe years ago. They bought up failing ranches, forced out families, sold the land eastward. Your husband, he made a deal to protect you. Sold the rights under false names, hoping Jude wouldn't come back. Evelyn's eyes burned. "He never told me. He was trying to protect you. And your son." She froze. "I don't have." Wes didn't blink. "Yes, you do." The word struck like a rifle crack. He continued. "For years ago, you gave birth. The boy died, or so they said." "No," she whispered. "No. The midwife said he was stillborn. We buried him." "You buried a bundle, wrapped in cloth. You never saw his face." Her knees almost buckled. Wes stepped forward but didn't touch her. "I found the midwife," he said. She moved to Albuquerque. Told me the truth. Jude took your son. Threatened to kill her if she ever spoke. Evelyn's voice trembled. Why? Why take a baby? Wes's jaw clenched. Insurance. In case your husband tried to back out. Leverage to keep the land when the boy grew. Bloodline rights. And because Jude, he liked hurting people without firing a gun. A long silence fell between them. Only the wind stirred, carrying the scent of sage and ash. Evelyn folded the deed with shaking hands. Her eyes blazed now, not with fear, but with something older, deeper. A mother's fire. Where is he? She asked. North Ravine. There's a camp. I think they're keeping him there. Hidden. He's alive. Wes nodded once. I saw him. Looks like your husband. Same eyes. Evelyn turned back toward the house. Then we ride. But Wes caught her arm. No, not yet. She bristled, pulling free. He's my son. I know. And I'll help you get him back. But not now. Jude is baiting you. He wants you to come swinging blind. We do this right, or we lose everything. Evelyn stared at him. And you? Why do you care? Wes looked away for a long moment. Because I helped them once. I did bad things. Took money. Closed my eyes. I never knew about the boy. But that doesn't clear my name. You think saving us makes it right? No, he said. But it's a start. The quiet held for several heartbeats. Evelyn finally nodded. Then we do this together. That night, they made a plan. By candlelight and grit, they mapped the canyon ridge, counted rifles, studied patterns. Wes had been watching. Jude's men rotated guard shifts. One stayed near the child's tent, another near the ridge trail. There were blind spots, narrow windows of time, and a storm was brewing to the west, thunderclouds rolling slow and low. They would use the dark and the storm. When midnight came, they rode out under a sliver of moon. The canyons loomed like sleeping giants, shadows pooling between stone teeth. Evelyn and Wes dismounted at the ridge and crawled the final 100 feet. Every breath was a prayer, every creak of leather a warning. From the bluff, they saw the camp. 3 tents, a fire dying to embers. A boy sat beside the largest tent, tied loosely, head down, still awake. A single guard nearby, leaning against a rock, rifle across his lap, dozing. Evelyn's throat tightened. Wes touched her shoulder. Give me the signal. I'll take the far side. You get the boy. She nodded. Then a voice split the dark. You always were a sentimental fool, Wes. Jude Black stepped from the shadows, gun drawn. 2 more men followed, rifles cocked. Evelyn reached for her weapon, but froze as Jude lifted the revolver and pointed it square at the boy's head. One more twitch, he said, and your sweet little reunion ends with a hole in it. The air snapped with tension. Thunder rumbled behind the mountains. Evelyn stared at her son, his wide eyes, his silent fear, and her heart shattered. Jude smiled. Now, he said softly, let's talk about this wedding again. Rain hammered the canyon like 1,000 galloping hooves. Thunder cracked overhead as lightning illuminated the hollow, catching the glint of Jude Black's revolver inches from the boy's temple. Move, Jude said, and he dies. Evelyn's breath hissed through her teeth. Her hand hovered near her revolver, but her body stayed rigid. Every muscle trembled, not from fear, but fury restrained by desperation. Wes stood a few paces to her left, soaked to the bone, staring straight at Jude. His voice, low and leveled, cut through the roar of rain. You always like to play God with other people's lives. But gods fall, Jude, and you're not even a man anymore. Jude's lip curled, but the gun didn't waver. You gonna tell me what I am, Wes? Some kind of outlaw philosopher now. You're a coward, Evelyn said, stepping forward, her voice thunder beneath thunder. You took a child, not for profit, not for power, just to break someone who never bowed to you. The boy stirred slightly, eyes flicking between them. Evelyn caught the motion. He was listening. Jude shifted, the barrel pressing into the boy's hair. Say another word, Widow Moore, and you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what he might have grown up to be. Something in Evelyn's face went still. Her fingers relaxed. She straightened, let her hand fall from the gun. Wes's eyes snapped toward her in warning. But she wasn't giving up. She was remembering. Her voice softened. You remember the first time you came through Red Hollow, Jude? 15 years ago. You came to my father's land with a fake smile and shiny boots. You told him you'd build railroads. You gave your word. Jude's jaw tightened. That was a long time ago. She took another step. You lied, burned his wheat, bribed the foreman, bled him dry. Jude's hand twitched. The gun stayed aimed. But he didn't give in. He stood between you and what you wanted, just like I am now. You didn't get him, and you won't get me. The boy looked at her then, really looked, and the wind shifted. Wes saw it too. He moved subtly, one boot grinding into the wet stone for better footing. Enough talk, Jude barked. Throw down your guns. Now. Wes didn't move. You fire that gun, Jude, and you don't leave this canyon alive. You think I care. You do, Wes said, because if you didn't, the boy'd be dead already. But you want to twist the knife. You always did. Evelyn saw the hesitation. She seized it. Her hand moved fast as a snake, drawing and firing in one motion. The shot ripped through Jude's left shoulder, spinning him backward. The gun fired, but too late and too high, blasting sky, not boy. The child bolted. Evelyn lunged, caught him, dragged him behind the rocks as bullets exploded into the dirt around him. Wes was already moving, firing back with precision honed by guilt and years of regret. Jude's men panicked in the chaos. Their camp a trap now turned against them. One dropped his rifle and tried to flee. Wes's second shot caught him in the leg. Another scrambled behind a crate, spraying wild lead that clanged off stone. Evelyn shielded the boy with her body, whispering in his ear, "Stay low. Don't run. You're safe now, baby. You're safe." The boy didn't cry. He nodded once, as if some part of him knew her voice from a place deeper than memory. Wes charged down from the rocks like a ghost of vengeance. His coat flapped, his boots thundered. 2 quick shots took out the last of Jude's men. Jude, bleeding but crawling toward his dropped revolver, reached it just as Wes kicked it away. They stared at each other in the storm, years of betrayal caught in a single heartbeat. "Do it," Jude gasped. "You owe me that much." Wes raised his revolver, but his voice was calm. "I owe Evelyn. And the boy. You get the rope." Evelyn emerged from the rocks, holding the boy's hand, soaked and muddy but tall with purpose. "No," she said quietly. "Let me." Wes lowered his gun and stepped aside. Evelyn stood over Jude, rain running down her face. "You wanted to break me, steal my child. You thought I'd fold." She knelt, close enough for him to see the fire in her eyes. "You made me." Jude opened his mouth to speak, but she struck him hard across the face with the barrel of her pistol. He slumped unconscious in the mud. The storm rolled past by dawn. Smoke from the campfires turned to mist. The boy clung to Evelyn as Wes bound Jude's hands and checked the wounded. Later, back at Red Hollow Ranch, the sheriff arrived, took one look at Jude Black bruised, bloody, and tied to Evelyn's wagon post and whistled low. "You did all this." Evelyn glanced toward Wes, then the boy beside her. "We did." The sheriff scratched his beard. "You got more grit than half the men I know." Evelyn smiled faintly. "I had to." The law took Jude away. The rain left the earth cleaner, washed free of blood and ghosts. That evening, Evelyn sat on the porch with the boy curled in her lap, the sun a quiet ember sinking into the horizon. Wes stood nearby, hat in his hands. "You'll be leaving," she said softly. "I should." She studied him. "You saved us." Wes nodded. "Still doesn't erase the past." "No," she said, "but maybe it wrote a better ending." Wes hesitated. "If you ever need help, I'll send word." She paused. "But I think I'll be just fine." He smiled then, a small, real thing, and walked into the twilight. Behind her, the boy stirred. "Mama." She blinked tears and held him tighter. "Yes, sweetheart." "I ain't scared anymore." She kissed his head. "Neither am I."